Hey, Crestwood, happy Wednesday to you. Happy Ash Wednesday. Happy Ash Wednesday. Somber Ash Wednesday. I'm not sure the appropriate greeting for today, but whatever it is, today is indeed Ash Wednesday. We'll have our service tonight at 7 p.m. when we join with our brothers and sisters from East 2nd Street Christian Church to mark the beginning of Lent with what is such a meaningful and powerful service. I hope you'll join us, 7 o'clock in our sanctuary. Would love to have you there. For now, I'm honored to bring you this devotional for this Wednesday, February 18th. I snuck away this weekend because I wasn't preaching. I took the weekend off and did a quick overnight trip to New York City to check a couple of things off my bucket list, seeing Brandi Carlile headline a concert at Madison Square Garden. If you have an hour or two and want to ask me about it, I'll be glad to share the experience with you because it was amazing. But I don't know that that was my favorite moment of my trip, interestingly enough. I worshiped the next morning at the church of a friend of a friend. She's one of the associate pastors there, and I'd heard about this church, so I went because, hey, you know what? It's a Sunday morning. I'd like to go and just worship somewhere, not knowing what to expect. It was one of the most joyful, powerful, diverse worship services I have ever experienced in my life. And when I say diverse, the congregation was diverse in age, in ethnicity, in sexuality, everything about the church just screamed joy. They had a children's choir that played music on the drums. They had an Asian lady who did this beautiful operatic solo. There was a pretty major TV star and Broadway star who was in the congregation and sang a couple songs for us as well. The African-American female pastor introduced the Korean pastor who gave the sermon on the Lunar New Year and the Year of the Fire Horse. We sang How Great Thou Art, and we sang a couple of songs I'd never heard before, but which were so uplifting. It was an amazing service. The thing you need to know about that church was that church burned down in December of 2020. They had this historic building on this corner in the East Village that caught fire, a 6-alarm fire, and the church burned in 2020. And yet, when I walked into that church, you would never know, other than the signs for the capital campaign to rebuild, you would never know that that church had gone through such tragedy. That church was burned to ashes, and yet look what it has become. So the associate pastor, who is now a new friend, and I went to lunch afterwards to talk shop, as we do, and we both shared that this past year has been a tough year for us. We've experienced loss, we've experienced pain, we've experienced transition. Kind of felt like both of our lives were in ashes in a way. And yet, look at what God can do with ashes. It is through the ashes that we will put on our foreheads tonight for Ash Wednesday that we are reminded that from those ashes, God will bring resurrection. That from our brokenness, from our sinfulness, God can repair and restore and resurrect something that could be even greater than what we had before. I look at this church and what I experienced on Sunday. I am still reflecting on just the power of that service, and to realize just over 5 years ago, that church burned to the ground. And yet God has worked through that, worked through those ashes to resurrect something that I have to imagine is even more powerful, even more glorious, even more Christ-filled than what they were before. I'm so amazed at what God can do with ashes. So, Chris, I want you to think about where in your life do you have ashes? What has burned down? What has been destroyed? What is broken? It could be something external in your life. It could be something right here inside of you. Something that used to be alive no longer is. Something that you had big dreams for is now lying in a heap on the ground. And yet, look at what God can do with ashes. There is always reason to have hope, even in our darkest times, because we know that God is at work to bring about good in all things for those who call on God. And so, Chris, I would encourage you today on this Ash Wednesday to call on God, to show God that you have these ashes, and to ask God to do something with them, to bring resurrection out of the ashes that are in your life. I have such hope for what God is going to do for me, for my friend, for that church, for this church. Tonight we remember that we are dust, and to dust we shall return. But we also look forward to the day when God reminds us God's not going to leave us in the dust, but God will bring about resurrection, new life through the gift of Jesus Christ. It starts tonight. Wait till you see where it ends. God bless you, Crestwood.